there's been a lot of discussion on how to best optimize and work the agent memory systems. Something that I've been developing or working on for quite some time is a system that references Qdrant, which is a vector database of sorts. That's really a fancy way of saying I'm able to log my conversations with my agents in a somewhat structured way within a local database where agents are then able to call upon referential information within blog posts or research or whatever activities I may be doing that I'm specifically invoking through an agent skill. And I think that's really smart, or, well, pat myself on the back. I've enjoyed building this system. Now, the thing that we run into is that Qdrant is inherently somewhat unstructured, right? You get a bit of a blurry view, and it's just taking in a lot of context, and it's pulling in through essentially like an aggregate of keywords. I would almost compare it to like a n-gram analysis if you do SEO. So for this particular demonstration, I just wanted to walk us through how Claude remembers as it relates to the system that I've put together, and I'm hoping this might help some folks that are working through their own memory issues. Now, let's see here if I can change my brushstroke a little bit. You guys are getting a little behind the scenes action on how I do these things. All right, so how Claude remembers. Specifically, you hop into your coding instance, whatever tool or platform you might use. I use VS Code, and you pop in your prompt. And for me, I operate out of an orchestration layer, meaning that I'll prompt Claude saying, hey, I want to work on this project for this client, or I want to do a content piece specifically around this for my personal brand. So that prompt goes into the Claude Code orchestrator. And in this case, we're talking about content. So it will pull in the skill that I've developed for content draft. When that skill for content draft is pulled in, there's almost like a bi-directional approach here. A big piece of it is that Qdrant layer that I've developed over time. Qdrant is invoked when content draft is developed, specifically calling my brand voice, the way I speak, the way I talk, and that's how you develop personalization. I can talk a little bit more detail on how I develop that. Qdrant's just not the full picture, but it is the way that I'm able to reference myself when I'm talking as myself, when writing content for myself. So again, Qdrant, this address, that's just a Cloudflare tunnel. It's all locally hosted. It's running through reverse proxy, all that other fun stuff. So all my security nerds out there, I'm pretty safe. But there's 14 collections within Qdrant, at least for me. And some of them are cross-referenced, others are for specific tasks. Agent content specifically is for mostly blog posts, social posts, etc. And there's scored matches. So basically, the more I talk about specific topics, right, or specific content structures, the more I'm compounding, the more I'm scoring into relevancy, if that makes sense. It's adding learning passively as we go. And that kicks back over to the skill execution, which is really part of the content draft, right? So I'll throw that in here. Content draft. That content draft has several tools within it. Again, Qdrant being one of them, and then the other being this Obsidian wiki. The Obsidian wiki is pretty cool. This is a thought that Andrew, I believe, Kaparthi, he works for Anthropic. This is something that he has developed for his own personal system, which is somewhat similar to what I've been doing with Qdrant and another tool called Outline. I'll touch on that here in a little bit. But Obsidian is a knowledge base. A lot of people have used it for, they're called like PDKs, personal knowledge database, PKD. There we go. Okay. So a lot of folks, researchers in particular, have been using this Obsidian tool prior to the agentic solutions, really, to create markdown files that they themselves can go reference. It has interlinking. It operates like a Wikipedia would. Well, we know agents love, .md files. Oof, that was bad handwriting. But those .md files are essentially Wikipedia pages, right? So within those pages, your agent's able to reference relational information, which is essentially backlinks, going back to other markdown documents that help it instruct or learn based on information and knowledge that it's gathered over time. So how does Obsidian different from Qdrant? Sounds pretty similar. I would say that Obsidian maybe provides a more stringent layer. The reference points are a little bit more detailed. Whereas, once again, Qdrant is sort of a blurrier depiction. It's referencing around the engram, so to speak. So like the cities in Dallas that have good places to eat in Qdrant, well, it might also notice another point where I'm talking about like cities in Dallas that have good trampoline or whatever, places in Dallas that have good trampolines, not cities in Dallas. That would be just as crazy as what I'm talking about. All that's to say, Obsidian is a more of a direct connection when you're referencing specific data points. And I think that there's room to have both of these layers in parallel and allow them to compound. So I've done a lot of talking. I want to do some showing. So if we kick over to Qdrant here, holy moly, that's a lot of stuff. This is more likely what you're going to see in Qdrant. Qdrant, again, here's a blog post that I have made in 2025. And it's interesting, right? So like when I'm chatting with my agent, my content agent, it's looking back all the way to 2025 to pull out keywords or phrases or anecdotes that are related specifically to, in this case, my blog and for my personal brand. Within these tabs, you can get structured info. This is some clever JSON. Then your search quality, just showing the size of the nodes, basically how related they are towards the specific content topic. I haven't taken any snapshots. Here's your visualization layer. I'll be clear with you, I haven't fully realized how how this is a good way of understanding your data or context. But the graph is pretty similar to what you might see in Obsidian. And again, the best way for my SEO or marketing folks to maybe think about this, or the way that I choose to think about it, you could, whether it's right or not wrong, but that you have content pillars, right? And within each content pillar, you have relational information that ties back towards a core concept. So if you click here at the center, you'll see like a personal blog, right? And this is something that had scored pretty high in importance. It's something that continues to get referenced when I'm talking about my blog or the style of marketing, etc. And you can keep clicking these nodes, right? Like they'll break out. There's connections that are made within the content. So like right here, you have a blog for my agency website talking about marketing forecasts. And then it's referencing a blog that I posted within my own personal website that's referencing how to track UTMs. It's pretty cool. Outside of Qdrant, before we hop over to Obsidian. Just wanted to show a little bit of the human layer, like the better way to internalize or understand this information, because I think the graph is cool. It's visually interesting. It makes you look and maybe feel smart. But at the end of the day, the fundamentals are usually the same. Like humans enjoy structured data, like where it's a folder breakout. Even for this own video, I've done some planning just on how to talk about this concept in video, and I'm not following any of it, but it's here for me to go back and reference. And I think that's important to understand, that there should be a human layer and an agentic layer, and then what are you doing to connect the two? And I think Obsidian's a great tool for that. All these files are written in Markdown, so, and then rendered visually in a more palatable way, as opposed to hopping in Qdrant and seeing, you know, this mess, which is, again, you're getting Markdown, and that's great for the agents, but I want to be able to review a more structured pattern such as this. And it is its own wiki. Prior to this Kaparthi approach, this was my wiki layer, and I'm now trying to break out or give the Obsidian strategy a try. Truth be told, I think you could get away with between just these two layers, but I am looking to dial in my knowledge or memory framework a little bit tighter. So we'll go ahead and kick over to, there you go, Obsidian. And now this is a draft that I ran earlier. Basically, when you're querying your skill, it will send a invocation. Fancy way of saying, it's just going to call this specific content draft skill within Obsidian here, and it's going to talk about basically some of the observations around the notes, the platform, the feedback I gave it. We were having some issues with postis, which is the delivery mechanism for how I would distribute my content. And shout out postis. At the same time, I'm always struggling with it. It runs on a temporal engine, which is its back-end database. That's always kind of giving me issues. But anyways, we have gone over Obsidian, we've gone over Qdrant, we've gone over Outline. Let's kick it on over to the meat and potatoes, which is VS Code. So here in VS Code, this is where a lot of the action happens. We have our content draft skill, we have a blank instance of Claude Code, and let's just vaguely throw in the content draft, see what's going. It's going to take a little bit of time to work through this, because we're calling a good amount of tools. We're basically activating 3 different memory layers. I know there's some token bloat there, but I think the trade-off is that you're getting a more contextually valuable level of content, and for your content, that's not something you really ought to play around with. Okay, so you want to draft content about, what do we want to draft content about? Let's just do, what do we want to talk about? Cloudflare tunnels. Let's talk about the best way to share your live whiteboard videos with an iPad and Excalibur. And then we'll go ahead and throw that on my personal, make it a bit of a tip. And it's going to reference some of my voice materials. It's going to query Qdrant. All right, so we went ahead and drafted our Excalibur iPad live video setup. Now, I don't know if I'll actually go live with this post. Usually I chat and do some back and forth with my agent to actually determine, like, hey, is this a topic I would like, or is this a topic that my audience would resonate with? This is all for the sake of demonstration purposes. But we went ahead and it queried Qdrant, hit my voice guide MD, logged the records in NoCodeDB, created the outline. This layer is important to me. I'll see if I can go ahead. There we go. And this is where I'll review the actual content, the meat of the content. And then we'll kick it over to back to VS Code. And I'm just going to say, hey, that looks good. Kick it over to the content schedule skill. The content schedule skill, I'm not going to go too deep into the meat and potatoes of that one either. It doesn't necessarily need the memory layer that we've put together for content draft. The schedule basically calls my database along with postage, what post is, which is kind of the it's the distribution layer for my content. And it's basically checking the records on both sides to see what's been posted, what hasn't been posted, what's active. Something didn't get posted, there might have been a reason for it, etc. Okay, so looks like we got everything scheduled to post. I had a few issues with postes, nothing new there. But here you can see the content draft MD, specifically the source count, populating for Obsidian. And here's the recap. Again, had the issues with postes. That's something that I'm continually trying to work around. That said, let's go ahead and kick it over to back towards Obsidian. Let's see here. Let's take a look and see what do we have. All right, so source count updated to 2. Add a few observations around the voice piece. Consent. It's kind of a conglomerate of what's found in the previous post and this post. And what's nice about this is you can actually go ahead and manually update this. Like maybe I don't want to talk about a dollar price, right? And you can go in and actually trim the hedges, so to speak.